Paul Pelosi's attacker pleading not guilty in his first court hearing just moments ago. The judge ordering David DePape to be held without bail. The illegal immigrant broke into the home of Paul Pelosi and brutally assaulted him with a hammer last week. DePape is facing federal kidnapping and assault charges in addition to state charges that could land him behind bars for the next 50 years. That comes as we learn more disturbing details about the suspect, a former partner describing DePape as mentally ill for a long time, saying he was constantly paranoid and thought he was Jesus. And his neighbors think something was clearly wrong with the guy.
Anything strange about him or anything that stood out?
There's something strange about the whole household. The entire household is very, very strange.
How about him?
He is birds of a feather with akin to them. So they are just, nudist drug abusers, and that's who gravitates toward them.
And as Republicans condemn the violence, Democrats see it as an opportunity to play the blame game.
The violent political rhetoric that is espoused by Republican leaders is inspiring violent political acts by individuals like this.
It is a uniquely right-wing problem.
This is a sickness, but it's not divorced from the Republican Party.
There's too much violence, political violence, too much hatred. Enough is enough is enough.
So, Greg, the first thing that stands out to me about the breaking news is that the suspect is being held without bail.
Yes.
There's not being let out of jail so he can harm other people.
Yeah, if the suspect is getting the book thrown at him, and that's great, but it raises the question, if the victim wasn't Pelosi, would that book still be thrown at him if the victim were a student, a retiree, a police officer, a shopkeeper? And there might be even excuses to why that person, let's remand him to his bus with an ankle monitor. That's what they would have done if this was just somebody else. When you're watching those idiots on those other networks talk and fart master Swalwell, this is all a deflection, because if you look at the suspect, he's mentally ill, he's homeless, he's illegal. Those are three areas that have been abdicated by the Democrats. They don't deal with the border, they don't care about the mentally ill, and they certainly don't care about the homeless. They just let them sleep on the streets, they let them camp, they don't give them any medical care. So that's what you're seeing right there with those people. It was their responsibility to create an environment of safety and security, and because it doesn't exist, they go after speech. But the funny thing is, if you believe that speech causes violence, then what do you advise? Like, what do you advise having 370 million people change their discourse to appease a tiny number of deranged people? That is impossible. However, you could institutionalize the mentally ill. You could make it harder for the homeless to be living on your streets. You could deport illegal aliens. Those are actually practical things you can do. That's why they're not doing it. Instead, they're going after words. They're going after other anchors, though some deserve it. But anyway, I joke.
Well, Michael Schellenberger, who actually ran for governor in California, explained the issue, and we'll listen to that, and then Dana, get your response.
We are in a psychiatric emergency in the United States as a whole. California is particularly hard hit. People don't realize it, but 1 out of 4 residents of San Francisco say they have either been assaulted or threatened with assault. Half say they have been a victim of theft over the last 5 years. So we are dealing with a psychiatric emergency, a drug addiction emergency, a huge crime problem.
Dana.
So Michael Schellenberger is such an asset to the California system. Like, if I were Gavin Newsom, I'd say, okay, why don't we at least bring that guy in? A team of rivals.
He's a Democrat.
Yeah, and he has done a ton of work, and so thanks to him, he got that out there right away. But also the San Francisco Chronicle did a good job of actually going to talk to the family and the neighbors. I'm kind of baffled by the speed at which Democrats were able to say, oh, okay, obviously he's a MAGA Republican, and that's why he did this. He was a guy who thought he was Jesus for the last 5 years. He also had accusations of pedophilia against his own children. They're not to mention the fact that homeless and obviously creating problems for the neighbors. He probably shouldn't have been on the streets at all, and he shouldn't have even been in the country because he was here illegally. I think that we could all say political speech has gone too far. You have Supreme Court justices who have not been able to sleep in their own homes for several months, and the Attorney General did nothing about that. And then you also have the fact that Steve Scalise can't walk correctly anymore because he was shot, and there was. At that time, it was like, okay, let's all agree. This was a lunatic. And lunatics and crazy people are radicalized by lots of different things all across the board. That is one of the reasons that crime is such a concern for people who are living in places like this, is that you don't know what they're going to do or what they're going to think on any given moment. They could just lash out at you. It's not like crime is just concentrated in one little area now. When you have homeless all across the country, that is something that is a huge problem. And I don't even know if Republicans have a good answer on homelessness, but at least I think people are trying to say, we want some sort of order. I do hope that that Paul Pelosi gets better. I mean, that is a terrible injury to have to deal with. And I feel sorry for his family that nobody should have to have this happen to them. But that means that nobody should have to have this happen to them.
Yeah, and leading up to the attempted assassination of Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the White House was continuing to encourage people to show up before and after that happened. But Harold, the issue with the narrative here about the MAGA Republican allegedly being this guy is that none of those facts were true from the beginning, and yet everybody ran with them before they had any details about who the suspect actually was.
I think we should all refrain every time until we get all the facts. I'm curious, and maybe we can get it before we end, or even before we end the show. To what did he plead not guilty to? Because it's amazing to me, because he admitted, according to some of the things we've reported, that he was there to take Speaker Pelosi and ask her questions, and if she didn't tell the truth, according to him, he was going to kneecap her. And two, I'm glad he's being held. I think that we should all be glad he's being held. I think we can point out perhaps the shortcomings and hypocrisy of our bail laws, and I think I'm a huge advocate that should be a big part of what I hope that the Republicans, if they do take control of the House, that's one of the first things they do as opposed to investigate. It'd be a smart thing for everybody in the country. Two, it is one of the worst things about the last 2 weeks of politics that has progressed over the last several years, last several cycles, is that we try to instigate people to go vote by. It used to be when my dad was in office, we'd instigate people to go vote by saying what we were for. And we'd say, Jesse may not be for that, but here's what I'm for. And it's over time, it has evolved into, not only am I for the right things, but Jesse is not only for the bad things or the wrong things, but he's a terrible person. So in politics, what happens after you get elected, after the election is over, how do you justify working with someone if you think the person not only is wrong, but they are a terrible human being? Jesse may be saying the same things, maybe saying the same things about me. It's hard to then come across the aisle and figure out how to work together.
But it was like, how did Biden work with Kamala after she called him a racist? Remember?
He did.
Yeah.
And not only did he do it, he put her on the ticket. You look at Obama, he and Hillary Clinton had it out. He made her Secretary of State. But I'm talking about across the aisle. George H.W. Bush became vice president after he called Ronald Reagan's policies in 1980 voodoo economics. Why? Because people were able to come together. So anyway, we got to tone this down, and it's unfortunate.
I have an answer for you before you go to Jesse, that he pled guilty to premeditated attempted murder, burglary, inflicting injury on an elder likely to cause great bodily injury, assault with a deadly weapon, false imprisonment, and threatening a family member of a public official.
I feel good about the prosecution.
There you go.
Case.
Yeah. All right, Jesse.
Well, you always plead not guilty because your lawyer tells you to plead not guilty. So you have a mentally ill, illegal alien, criminal, drug addict, homeless guy.
Nudist.
From Canada, nudist. And he's committed a slew of felonies and hasn't been deported.
Right.
Right there. He should have either been deported back to Trudeau in Canada, he should have been institutionalized, or he should have been locked up here in the United States. But he was able to prey on Paul with a hammer because of Democrat policies. This guy's ideology is all over the map. The ex in prison for trying to kidnap a 14-year-old said the guy was an Obama supporter, said he was progressive.
See, I knew it.
And then you go and you look at his online materials, and he's like some sort of anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist. He's obviously a psychotic. He's taking all sorts of psychedelics, can't get enough of the psychedelics. He's wandering around at midnight with hammers and just busting into people's homes, trying to kneecap people. Not a great mastermind, not the best criminal planner. Oh, yeah, sure, hostage, go take a leak while you call 911 and I'll help you let the police in the door. Come on, all right?
You're criticizing his
Well, they're acting like this
set.
guy's like some sort of January 6er that had plotted this thing for decades. This guy just kind of like, come on. And then Paul, multimillionaire, living in a multi-million-dollar estate, in the middle of a San Francisco crime wave, doesn't have a weapon. His alarm's not on, or doesn't have an alarm. And come on, Paul. It's not Paul's fault. This guy's responsible. But you have to take certain measures, especially when this property's been vandalized twice. His Napa place has been burglarized. I hope he feels better. I hope he recovers. And I hope Nancy and he can go to Italy and retire on the Riviera like they planned.
All
Move
right.
to Florida.
Maybe to
Didn't
Florida.
she buy a place there?
Yes.
I think she did.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.